welcome to the Mostly True podcast with Nick, Yumi and Mario, or Mario, Yumi, Nick, or Yumi, Nick, Mario, any combination of those three.
それ
I like the way you start every hour podcast. the combination of three.
Yeah, the three musketeers.
The three musketeers. Welcome everyone to our podcast. Last week I just want to thank everyone who enjoyed our previous last week's podcast regarding to mask or not to mask. We were quite surprised that we had lots of hits on both podcast and YouTube. You know, YouTube, it's just, how do you call that? Omake, right?
Omake.
So
Background.
Yes, it's like it's like an extra thing, you know, because we do podcasts. We're not YouTubers. We're podcasters. So we just record this. Yeah. So I apologize for people who are watching the YouTube. You know, we're not looking at the camera all the time because we are recording a podcast. So naturally, you know, this is just a way. This is who we are. That's Nick over there. This is Yumi, and I'm Mario. And
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yes. Now they know.
Now they know.
Now
they
they
can
know.
put a name to a face.
Exactly.
あ、そっか、言ってなかったね。
Although I think they already guessed I'm not Yumi.
Yes, I don't think. Yes, they guessed too. That probably the guys. One. Yes, I think the girl is Yumi. But who's Nick? Who's Mario? I guess now you know. Well, anyway, today.
Yes. What is today's topic, Mario?
Last week we talked about to mask or not to mask the post-pandemic. Today we're going to touch base on another very interesting topic, particularly in Japan.
Okay.
It's been ongoing. I can see it on TV a lot. People talk about it's the child benefit or children's allowance.
How do you say that in Japanese?
子供手当。
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 手当。
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 手当。Is it de or te or de?
手当。手
当。
Yeah.
子供手当。
手当。
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 Perfect.
Not te ate. It's te ate.
Te ate.
That's right.
There you go. Perfect. Now it's perfect.
It's hard, really. You know, like learning Japanese is really one of the hardest languages to learn. You know, I've sampled Chinese and Korean, and I think Japanese is by far the most difficult. Of those
思う
three.
そうやって。
Omoyo, of course. Yes.
中国語より
Yeah, well, Chinese got kanji only, right? But
Also.
grammatically, they're closer to, I think, English, right? Because there is a subject-verb
Well, I think
object.
the tones are difficult in Chinese.
Ah, yes. Yeah, that's the two, because Mandarin and even all the other dialects in China are based on their tonal languages.
Yes.
So if you miss one tone, you miss the complete meaning. So that is the most difficult, getting the tones. But learning the tones, it's not as difficult as learning Japanese grammar.
Right.
なるほど。
That's why it makes it a little bit more difficult. Well, Nick did a little bit of introduction back at one of our clients regarding why Japanese people don't speak good English.
Oh yeah, right. I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
He did last. I think it was this week, wasn't it, Nick?
I think it's the biggest audience I've ever had personally.
Yes.
I don't think I've had more than that.
Yes, I saw the photo, and Nick was giving a lecture about why Japanese people, you know, even though they study for 6 years, they still can't speak
English.
good English.
Yeah.
Yes, at a satisfactory level. Yeah. So he had over 500 in audience, right?
Yeah, 500 that time.
そうなの
So 500人でした.
え
Yeah, 500 members came and watched Nick lecture.
はあ
I was part lecturer, part comedian, I think, and part performer.
あ、そうなの
Yeah.
Well, I think presenter falls into the performer category
I think
rather
so,
than
yeah.
the lecture category, right? So,
へ
Yeah.
学生さん
yes, many
Well, and
university
students
students.
and staff. I think.
Students and staff, and there was a lot in attendance. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that, but it was just a little bit because of the kodomo teate,
Yeah.
yes, and child benefit, or what we call children's allowance. These are the two English words that are commonly used.
Well, the wider topic is, why people or couples are not having children. that's the wider topic.
That's the wider topic, yes. So why couples do not have children, and like the recent movement and what the government in Japan is trying to promote. It's they want to promote more, couples to have children. So in order to do that, they have to create a good infrastructure. So we're going to talk about the infrastructure. We're going to talk about why they don't have. And at the same time, we're going to focus on the child benefits.
And as always, everything we say is mostly true.
True. So these are just our opinions. We do not represent the government. We do not represent any companies. We have no sponsors. These are just based on our research, based on our opinions.
Yes.
Yes. And
we represent the world of these three people you're listening to or looking at.
Exactly. Yes. As Nick and I have been living in Japan for many years, and most of us are married, some of us have children, and we live in particularly in a society which is in a highly developed country like Japan. And what we're seeing is that there are less and less young people in Japan, and this is something that we would like to talk about. Is this just happening in Japan? Is it on a global scale? Is it happening in the other developed countries? So that would be pretty much the things we want to cover about it. But first things first.
Okay. Let's first.
Yes. Let's get the opinions of why do you think Japanese couples don't want to get married? What's your opinion?
Don't want to have children.
I'm sorry,
but it is connected.
What
you
connected.
said is connected.
True. So to get married, obviously you want to start up a family.
Yes.
Right. So you don't get married. You probably don't want to have children. In Japan, for our audience who's outside of Japan, you may find it a little bit different from your country's probably laws. In Japan, in order to conceive a child and have a child, you must get married. So it's not like in other countries.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh no, you have to be married to have children. I
Really?
mean, actually you don't have to be married, but you will not be the father or the mother, right? 戸籍に入らないわけですよね。
そうだね。
Oh, so you won't.
You won't be registered in the family register.
Okay, right.
少ないよね、日本だと。
So they have a very it's a very old-fashioned law. Okay, so for example, let's see, Yumi's pregnant. We don't know the father. She knows the father, but she's not married, so the child goes under her family register, and that's it. And if you want to have them both, then obviously you have to get married. Am I correct, Yumi? I don't know. Is this true?
多分。
ですかね。Right. That was something that, for example, back in Europe, particularly England, I think in New Zealand is the same. You don't have to get married.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, you can have children, and you both can be the guardians, legal guardians of the child, without being officially registered as a husband and wife with the authorities.
And I think many people are becoming solo parents now.
Yeah.
Through surrogates or through adoption or those
Yep.
things.
That's right. So the question is, why Japan population is decreasing? It is estimated by the year 2050, or maybe even earlier, Japan will go below 100 million.
Yeah, and currently it's 125.
Currently it's 125
million people.
And the recent statistics show that for the first time since the record of statistics, so we're talking about back almost 100 and more years ago, since the statistics has started, calculating all the parts. This is the first time Japan this year had a birth of less than 800,000 babies for the first time ever recorded in history of Japan. So we're looking at a rapid decline, and at the same time we see a huge increase of elderly people in Japan. They constitute almost 30% and more of the population, perhaps if not almost close to 40. I'm not sure. This is mostly true. I'm sorry, I haven't checked that part. But it is an aging country, and Japan and the government there are really trying to reverse that as much as possible.
And it's a problem happening worldwide.
Yes,
I think.
So back to Yumi. Yumi-san, like, what do you think? Why Japanese people don't want to have children? What is your main, like, what's your opinion? What's your main feeling?
でも日本の政府はお金がないから子供ができにくい、子供を作りにくいって思ってるけど。
So not having enough finances
No.
to raise a child is a big problem, right?
だけど違うかもね。
Well, it all depends. You know, like I still consider Japan to be a highly developed country with almost a really good budget that they can operate with.
The budget for welfare.
The budget, no, basically the entire government's budget running the country itself. And I don't know, you know, like by giving what are their priorities is my question. You know, where do they spend most of the money? They're talking about now, you know, like increasing taxes, and again, they're also talking about spending more money in the military, raising the military, you know, budget. So, and at the same time, I'm also hearing that they're trying to reverse this, you know, childbirth and try to increase the childbirth. So obviously they've got these priorities, and I'm not very sure whether, you know, which one is going to be first. Are we going to spend more money on military? Are we going to spend more money on
just general public welfare, you know, I guess.
Children. But to Japanese, like as a resident of Japan, and I believe you as a regular like Japanese citizen, which one do you put the priority to, the military or the benefit for children?
でもさっき喋ってて2人と、日本のそのベネフィットが低いんだよね。
According to the very short research I did at lunchtime, yes, on my
びっ
phone.
くりした。なんか日本いっぱいさ、お金くれてるのかなと思ったらさ、2人の住んでた国の方がいっぱいお金もらってるんだと思って。
In the one website I checked, so very thorough
mostly
research.
true だけど。
It did say that New Zealand was higher up in the ranking of benefits for couples with children and a financial benefits.
So the government gives them more money and, you know, supports the families with children in that particular case. So, but Japan does it too, right? I mean, regardless of how much is it a lot or is it a little, you know, it's been this child benefit has been for many years, but it looks like it's not producing any results.
So they've been trying for a long time. Well, they have, haven't they? Because they knew this problem of, you know, aging, you know, was serious, and they've known for a long time, right? You know, a decade at least, right, or more. I'm sure.
Yes. I still do not understand the priority, to be very honest. I've been living here for many years, and I do believe the government is doing their best, you know, like to try to meet the demand, you know, like increase the quality of life for everybody. And we have been seeing a lot of shifting, especially in employment, company rules, not many overtime working hours, you know, trying to create a balance between private life and working. You know, we see that, and you know, we can see it. But then again, that has not improved, you know, younger people. Okay, they have stable jobs, they have a stable income, but they don't want to get married.
そっか、そうだね。確かに。
I'm not talking about 100%. I'm just talking about there is a slight, like a majority, not slight, but pretty much, if not majority of people that are not very interested in having a lifetime partner, somebody they can share their life. And then if you don't have that, then how can you have children?
Well, difficulty being a solo parent is, look, I'm not a solo parent myself, so I'm not trying to, you know, say that I, you know, can fully empathize, but I can appreciate that it would be a very hard job to take care of a child alone.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, solo parents, like they are pretty much the most vulnerable in my opinion. They are the ones who need a lot of support.
Yes.
Not I'm talking about a parent has to work, has to provide for her or his child, okay, and at the same time that child has to be taken care of, okay. And how can they look after children and work at the same time? So there's got to be some kind of a support.
Well, that's because what do you call it when both? I'm sure there was a phrase for this or something, but now it's common for both parents to have full-time employment.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Even though they have a child, they're both working.
Yes.
So working couple.
Yes.
And I think that plays a big role in why people may choose not to have a child. But how would you find the time, to sufficiently take care of your child if you're working full time? It would be very difficult, but people do it obviously, and my hat off to you guys. It's a great endeavor that you have managed to accomplish.
Oh, absolutely. I just want to pay respect to all the single parents who are there, solo parents, and they're looking after the children, are working, and then you have my hat off as well on everything you do. It's just, like, are you happy with that? I mean, is there anything that you as a single parent would want to see in order for you to feel like comfortable doing your work, and at the same time knowing that your child is safe, like your child's future is secured, and then when you come home, your child will be there and everything will be fine. This is a burden that most single parents have, and both working parents, I believe, at the same time. So you have kindergartens, okay, then you have nursing schools, and you have like a daycare facilities, like after school, like daycare, and that's been on the rise. I can see, but still we are seeing on TV in Japan that some parents, like they say, well, I cannot have a child because, or I have a child, and I cannot find a kindergarten or a nursing school where I can send my child because there's not enough facilities.
Yeah, I've heard there's like a waiting, what do you call it? Waiting list? A waiting list for those services.
So I believe that's probably one reason. Younger people sees that there is not enough infrastructure. It's gonna be a really big burden for me, and how am I going to do my work if I'm going to like have to raise bring up a child? So that's probably one thing. Second thing, it was very interesting that it was on NHK, I believe, or any other Japanese TV channels. They are discussing about this, and I can hear lots of opinions, and that's really good, because the more opinions, you got the public opinions as well. Like people are coming, so obviously the government is trying to get as much as opinions as possible to try to draft a law that will be more beneficial. But at the same time, you've got people, younger generation, I'm talking about 20s, even 30s, both men and women are not that particularly interested in getting married. Do you think it's happening only in Japan, or do you think it's happening on a...
日本だけだと思ってたけど。
Nick, what do you think?
I know I've got to be careful of that. I believe that there's a trend globally for people getting married at a later age, in their 30s or late 20s, and if that is the case, then that could influence both the decision. Not both. It would influence the decision to have children or not, because of the biological issue as well. The older you are, the more challenging it is to successfully become pregnant. And then if you are late 20s or 30s, maybe you already have an established career You have a job, you have a profession, you've worked hard to, increase your position in the company or get more customers and clients, and a child would be a very a big spanner in those works.
You might want to explain that.
A big stone in the pool.
A spanner in the work. That's an English idiom.
Well, maybe a stone in the pool. When you throw the stone in the pool, there's a lot of movement in the water, right?
It creates ripples, right?
Yeah. So that having the child is that stone in the water that, changes everything. So I can see that if people are getting married at a much later age, naturally there would be more, less pregnancies. I keep using the word marriage, but I have to be careful about that because I understand that marriage is not required for people to decide to become pregnant or not. Outside of the institution of marriage, it's completely acceptable and it's fine to have a child, of course, with your lifetime partner. But the situation is the same. Even if you're not married and you choose to have a lifetime partner, and you decide at a later stage to have a child in your 30s or your early 40s, regardless of whether you're married or not, the biological issues are the same. So I think that plays a big part.
Yes. Yes, we see a little bit of change in those values, actually. I guess probably our generation and the younger generation now, they clearly share different values when it comes to this. You can see young people, living in a country like Japan with excellent infrastructure. They've got everything they need. They've got good salaries. They've got good places to live. They've got places to go out. They've got friends. They've got all their pretty much needs are somehow more or less satisfied.
Right.
So they feel extremely comfortable living the life they're having it now, and believing that if I find a partner and then share that life with that partner, will that improve? Or will that kind of decrease the quality of the current lifestyle that I'm having, including my career, including everything I do?
And the relationship with the other person.
And the relationship with the other person. So this is something that, I believe it's not up to us to decide, but we need to look at those values and see, okay, if these values are shifting towards the original values that we had when we were their age, perhaps the old laws that we have enacted and implemented and now they're in effect, they obviously have no connection with what is current trend. Okay, so the government can spend money and lots of money on promoting, but are we addressing the right issues? Are we going to say, listen, family is good, family is important, family is something that will help you develop yourself to be better, or not. That's where the lies of the question is. It's not about probably I guess a lot of money spending, because we, as Nick mentioned, and I also made some research about that. True, yes, Japan current children's allowance or child benefit compared to European countries. Even to other countries outside Europe, United States perhaps, even Russia. I've even checked the Russia parts, many countries, they have these systems, child benefit systems, but their versions are a little bit different, that's what it says. So I'm talking about people who want to get married and who want to have children. It's not just Japan. It's happening with many developed countries. The rate, the amount of people who get married and the childbirth ratio, it's relatively below compared to developing countries. So developing countries, on the other hand, it's quite interesting. They don't enjoy those benefits as the citizens living in the developed countries. They have less salary. Obviously, they live in a much smaller places, maybe, but they get married and they have children, and not only one or two, but I'm talking about 3, 4, and even more.
I'll jump in there. Okay, so there are a lot of factors involved in why the child rate is higher in developing countries. you could initially think, oh well, because I need more family members in order to support the family income. Right?
Okay.
The more children I have, the more likely that we will be able to, be financially secure as a family. Maybe, and that would then, however, have a negative consequence, in that maybe, children or young adults would start working too soon and maybe not complete their education as they potentially could, right? So instead of going to university, they find a job immediately after high school or wherever the the minimum age that you must attend school. Some children would immediately go out and find work to support the family. But another factor is education too, because in a country like Japan, which is developed, contraceptives and the tools we use to prevent pregnancy. I'm trying to think of another word for condom, but I can't think of it.
You can just say condom. I think condom is fine. It's contraceptives, right? Yes. Preservatives. Yeah.
I know, it's contraceptives. Because you've got to be careful on these podcasts on YouTube. So if condom was a bad word or not. But anyway, so they've got in Japan and other developed countries an education and awareness of contraceptives, and they're more widely used. So in countries that are not developed or are developing, that knowledge is not, hasn't spread widely yet. So that results in a lot of
okay. So, yeah, education is definitely one of the issues regarding that particular part. Yeah, true. Second would be, as you mentioned, the household, the capital, the general finances of the household. If one parent works, he or she cannot sustain the family. So wife has to work, and children have to work, and everybody has to work because they get low salary, right? And the living expenses are getting higher and higher. So they need to be able to meet that demand.
Yep.
Therefore, they work really hard. But there is a need. There is a need for them to work, and there is a need for them to make children. Where has Japan lost that need?
Or desire.
I
think the need is gone.
Right. And it's not only in Japan. I'm talking about in other countries as well. People simply do not want to get married. Right. So this is something that is one particular thing. Although there've been some very successful ways of like reversing that. The ratio, the child ratio. For example, there are countries where the government has stepped in to support.
Oh, you mean they've reversed the trend?
Well, they reversed the trend a little bit. I'd say, living in Japan for so many years and looking at this child benefit support, according to you can find this online, but I'm just gonna go ahead and share this with the audience. And I believe people who are married and who's listening to this podcast, they understand how much money and who have children, how much money they receive monthly at child support. But for those who do not, apparently the government of Japan have the following, it's called Kodomo Teate law, that says all the kids, the first child below 3 years old receives 15,000 yen per month. Okay. Which is roughly, now we're talking about 100, maybe 110 euros, or perhaps 120 or $30 American dollars per month, and this is for one child. Then after that child gets over 3 years old, up until junior high school, receives 10,000 yen per month. So from 15 goes down to 10,000 yen. So when it becomes 4.
As a parent yourself, do you think you'd spend more on a newborn? Is that true? Than a child who's in junior high?
That depends. Yeah. Well, depends.
Why would they drop it? Why from 130 down to 90 or 100?
Because I believe after they get 4 or 5, they start going to kindergarten and elementary school, and that's free in Japan.
I see.
Yes, elementary schools up until junior high school the education is free.
And that's a place where the school or the kindergarten would provide the necessities of
the child. So I'm just assuming, okay, that's how it works. But this is how it is. So the first child, so after 3 years old, up until the graduation, up until elementary school, they get 10,000 yen. However, if you have 2 children, or if you have 3 children or more, the third child, the fourth child, will receive 15,000 yen up until elementary school, end of elementary school.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And then, junior high school. So we're talking about age 12 to age 15. Kids, they get, each family receives a 10,000 yen per child support. So you're looking at roughly, if we take an average here, say 2 children, okay, one family with 2 children will receive, say, 120,000 yen per child a year. No, I'm wrong.
Probably.
Yeah, 120,000.
Don't ask me about
average. Yeah, it's average 120. If it's 15,000 yen, then it's up to between 120 and 150,000 yen per child per year. Okay. Okay. Is 足りますか? Is this enough, Yumi? What do you think?
足りないんじゃない?
It doesn't sound like a lot.
Doesn't sound like a lot.
No,
right? So
it doesn't.
120,000 yen up to 150,000 yen. So it's like you're getting an annual support of 1,000 euros, or 1,200 American dollars per year per child.
I'm pretty sure New Zealand is almost double that. Well, I'm not, as I said, this is mostly true, but I'm pretty sure New Zealand. But then again, New Zealand's living costs are much higher. I wonder if that's one of the factors that is involved in this difference. Why New Zealand is has a lot higher kodomo yeah. Anyway, so New Zealand's living costs are very, very high. We are very far away from the majority of the world. Import costs are very high. We have high tax. Not a high population. So that could play a role, maybe.
So yes, so that's 1,000 euros per year Japan gives per child on average. Okay, well, in comparison, I will just give you another example. Germany, for example, Deutsche offers about 190 euros a month per firstborn and secondborn child. And with the figure going up to 200 for a third child and 222 euros for the fourth child.
So what's that, about 20% more?
That's more than 20%. Yes. So Germany gives like 194 euros with the current exchange rate. Let's calculate at 140. Okay, you are getting about 28,000 yen per month for one child.
So how much?
28,000 yen per month per child, firstborn and secondborn child. While Japan gives only 10 and 15 up until the age of 3. Okay, so that's one thing.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because Japan's currently still higher in the economic strength than Germany, and Japan has a much higher population.
It has much higher population. That is true. Yes, and the economy it's bigger than Germany. Okay, population, economy-wise, like it's all of those things.
But I believe, and you can maybe confirm this, Germany's military spending is very low, isn't it?
Well, I don't want to touch base on the military and how the allocation of the budget goes for each part, but I'm just talking about child allowance.
Yeah, but what I mean is if you increase the child's allowance, you're taking it from somewhere else.
You have
right?
to take it from somewhere
so
else.
I'm curious where they're taking it from, and maybe they're taking it from military spending.
Well, it can be from many things. Like there are many tax brackets even in Germany. Like where like the money, they come from the people. So it's the people who pay more taxes. Yes. My point is that we know Japan's culture refers on spending and not spending. It's like saving money. Japanese people prefer to save money.
That's true.
Okay. So this particular system of giving 10,000 yen or 15,000 yen per child to a family, will that money be spent or not? Okay.
No.
Or they'll just be used for savings. Because how the economy works, and this is everybody understands this, is that when you have more expenditure, you obviously pay more taxes, more consumption tax, which means more money go to the government.
Yes.
And that means that the government will have more and more money to allocate in the following year and the year after that. So, but if you're saving money, if you're not spending money, that means there won't be any tax revenues from but there won't be any tax revenues, which means the government will have less and less money. So,
right,
is this like giving basically kind of cash on hand?
Yeah.
Here it is, Yumi, 15,000 yen. I'm gonna, deposit to your bank account. Will you use them? That's exactly what I want to say.
Because your mentality would be, I need to keep this in case of an emergency or for the future.
For the future, right? Yes. In other countries, depending on the country's values or cultural values, obviously they will use the money to spend them. For various reasons.
Yep.
Okay. So maybe Japan needs to apply, and I'm very sorry. I know there is now war going on between Russia and Ukraine, and I don't want to take sides. This podcast is not about that. But I've made some research, and I found Russia's style of, they don't give you the money like
Really?
cash on hand.
What do they do?
They create a capital for your child.
Okay.
So they give you, and these are the latest information that I have, roughly about 6,000 American dollars.
Yeah.
Or was it euros? I'm not very sure. Just a moment. I don't want to be wrong here. This was really interesting. I if you don't mind, I would like to read it if I can find it somewhere. Where did I go? Yes. Anyway,
we're trying to look for the exact amount that Russia provides each
it somehow
child.
It somehow disappeared, and I don't know why it disappeared. But anyway, it was about $6,000.
Yeah.
It's just a one time. Okay. It's not monthly payments or anything.
Okay, so it's a lump sum of money.
It's a lump sum of money, and they say, okay, congratulations, you have a child, and here is a capital of $6,000.
Okay.
Okay. You are to spend this on babysitting, on education, or any other stuff that your child needs. So you don't save that money. Okay, the money stay with the government, and when you want it, then the government will release those fundings.
Okay, so they must have some system in place whereby only certain providers, that you want to use, can take money from that account.
Exactly. I mean? So it means that the money that the government is giving it to you, these money, they don't actually belong to you. These money is for your child.
Right.
And you will use them for your child. And the government is making sure that those money are actually being spent on the child.
Yeah, so as an example, maybe, you can confirm this later or now, maybe if you know. Okay, so I'd like to hire a babysitter. Okay. I assume a private babysitter would be more difficult, but a registered babysitter, maybe a company that provides that kind of service. I go to them, I said, I'd like to hire a babysitter, please. Okay. And when it comes to payment, I say, well, here's my information for my special account for these kind of services, so please take the payment from that account.
I think, like you're very much and I believe that's how it works. Because if like with our medical insurance here, the health insurance in Japan, like you have a card, you go to a clinic, and you only pay 30%.
Yeah.
Okay, the 70% is covered by the fund.
Well, that would be interesting if it worked like that. I don't know if it does, but that would be interesting.
Even if, like no matter how it works, obviously those service providers who are catering for the children, they know the way on how to get access to those budgets. And that is something that is really useful, I believe. So the parents receives the money and says, this is going to be used for your child. You have 2 children, we'll give you more. You have 3 children, we'll give you much more. There is a country, I was very surprised in Spain, for example, and I believe I was telling you about, like the amount of money, for example, they give some amount of money for the firstborn and for the secondborn. Then they not double, they quadruple. So multiply 4 for the 3rd child.
Okay. Right.
Multiply by 12 for the 4th child.
Okay, so they're encouraging large families.
So they're encouraging
couples to have more children.
Yes. So first child, for example, you receive 10,000 yen, for example. Second child, you receive 10,000 yen, maybe 20,000 yen. The third child, you receive 40,000 yen.
2乗ってこと
Yes, the third child. And the 4th child, you will receive 120,000 yen.
I have a feeling New Zealand does something like that.
So it's like first child 10,000 yen, second child 20,000 yen a month, third child would be 40,000 yen a month, and the 4th child will be 120,000 yen a month. So if you just add those, first child 10,000, second child 20,000, third child 40,000, that's already 70,000 yen there, plus the 4th child of 120,000, you have a budget of 200,000 yen per month to look after your child, which means
you would need it.
and which means one parent can stay home and don't work and look after the children. And that's something that Spain has done a really good job there by encouraging large families.
You know what? We've been talking, Mario and I, recently about how society's changing. And one of the things we talked about was how people are looking for more freedom with their schedules. And whether you agree with that or you disagree with that, I think it plays a role in child rearing. On the negative side, I can say that if people are choosing their schedules, it's difficult for companies to manage their staff, or more difficult to manage it, and also you lose that support and kind of team atmosphere when people are not in the office, right? When they have varied schedules. So that's a big downside. And we're company owners, so we understand that, right? On the plus side, yes, if you have complete flexibility with your schedule as an employee, then you have more freedom to, perhaps go to more school events, or you're not so rushed in the morning to take your child to school. So I can see the benefit of a flexible schedule for parents, but I'm worried how are we going to find the balance with companies and building teams and those kind of things.
Well, yes, with large companies that probably is not a big issue per se, because they always will find somebody who's going to substitute you or substitute Yumi when you have let's say a class observation of your child or some kind of sporting event that you have to attend, or suddenly you have to rush to the school because all of these things are happening. And it's the small and middle-sized enterprises SMEs basically, who suffer the most, because even with the government support, they will say, okay, well, you're going to improve your like a like work-life balance, and we will subsidize some of the money. But small, middle-sized enterprises is not about basically we need the money; it's we need the manpower.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we don't need your money, government. We just need a good person to work for us,
to work with us. You know, so thank you very much for subsidizing it. It's all wonderful, but you know, like how are we going to cope with the lack of manpower? And that has been chronic in Japan, particularly in a country like Japan, who most of the workers, most of the citizens prefer larger corporations because of that stability that large corporations offer. And SMEs, it's pretty much hit and miss, and they don't want to, you know, like have that feeling of maybe I'm entering into a family-owned business and I need to listen to my boss's wife, for example, you know, like, and there are a lot of anxieties that are happening with the people, so they don't choose working for small and middle-sized enterprises. I believe in other countries that's probably not the case. Particularly in my country, I would actually prefer to work for a small company than a large company, because for me, if I'm a good worker, my chances of me, you know, like moving up the ladder, it's faster, and at the same time I get to see everything about the company.
Well, yeah, you can do more because
you can do more.
You're given more tasks and responsibilities.
You get more tasks, you get more skills, you get more other parts. So this is something that it's another very interesting thing, and I would like to see how the government of Japan is going to work this out and try to find a kind of middle ground here that can be beneficial for the parents, for the ones, you know, like for the people who would like to get married in the future and have children, so the family, the companies at the same time, and how are they going to allocate the budget to address those issues. So these are things that actually I'm pretty much concerned at the moment as to where they go and how they go. Because I'm seeing a lot of infrastructure being built. You know, I'm seeing lots of new roads, lots of new highways, you know, like, and these are arteries, you know, of course, logistics is the number one really important thing for a country to run.
Well, there's a lot of nursing homes being built.
Well, I said there is a lot of nursing homes now because for the elderly people, but at the same time, you know, how do you expect to have more babies if you do not provide a basic infrastructure? You know, basic infrastructure for the young little ones until they go to elementary school, and after that they go to junior high school, and after junior high school, now even high school, the government is supporting families depending on how much their earnings, annual income is. You know, like they divide that. Like, so if you have a low annual income, you pay less high school fees. You know, if you have high like income, you pay, the government is not giving a lot of subsidies, and that's very fair, and that's wonderful. That's really good. But at the same time, what parents is mainly concerned is about the education of the child, right? Up until university. And some suggested, you know, like, okay, having a free education from elementary up the way to university, paying 0 yen, you know, is this a good thing? And you know, yes, when you hear like this, it sounds great, but is it doable? Can we do this? You know,
well, like I said, you need to take money from somewhere else.
Money from somewhere else, and then if we're going to provide a zero education, like for example 0 yen education for everybody, you know, like in that particular, to me, you know, like I believe that only public universities should do that, because if you make it all 0 yen, you know, like there can be.
Oh yeah, you need options, right?
Well, you definitely need to have particular things
in order to encourage competitiveness, right?
Yes. So how will that work? You know, so the government will have a control of everything, all the universities, if it's 0 yen. You know, so this is something that I would like to see some give and take between the government, between the companies, and consumers, basically us. You know, like people as well. So this is something that, it's of a great concern. But I believe this topic can last forever. What do you think? If we continue like this, because we've been doing almost 50 minutes now.
Well, if you've been listening and you haven't paused, thank you very much. Because it's already been 15 minutes.
Yes, there's lots of covers about child allowance, getting more and more young people, get more babies and everything. But how about this? Maybe we can ask our viewers, if anyone's there, write your comments, tell us what you think, if you have any ideas, please share them with us. I believe if we receive a lot of comments from you who's still listening, maybe we could have a part 2 of the same podcast in our next session. Therefore we can have we can try to read your comments, perhaps discuss your comments at the same time, and get your word out there. You can write your name if you want. If you don't want to be your name said, you can just say, please don't mention my name. You can just be anonymous. It's perfectly fine. Anything is
obviously inflammatory comments will not be read.
Yes, comments that do not have any connection with what we're discussing will not be read naturally. Yes.
And keep it friendly, everybody.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they are. Very good. Well, okay. I believe we've kind of mentioned. We said what we wanted to say.
Well, no, because if we kept going, we could be here another 2 hours.
Yes. So we're going to stop the podcast for this time. But if this topic is again gathering audience as the mask or not to mask, it pretty much was the best so far we've done. I want to thank you very much for doing that. And like I said, if we receive an audience and if there are comments and there are questions or there are requests
for topics,
suggestions, write them on the comments. We are on our podcast. We're on YouTube as well. Feel free to do that. We check that. We'll take that, and our next podcast, we can just share the views and comments from our listeners. And
you can become part of this podcast.
Remember, whatever you say, it's definitely going to be mostly true.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about whether it's correct or not, because that's the point of this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thank you very much, Yumi.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much, Mario.
And see you again in our next podcast. Goodbye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.